Hello students, welcome to today's session on economics. My name is Onoja Peter. In this session we will be considering the topic business organization, and under this topic we shall be looking at the meaning of business organization, the concepts of limited and unlimited liability, the concept of separate legal entity, and the forms of business organization. What is business organization? A business organization is an undertaking or project which usually involves capital investment and risk, such that there are chances of success as well as failure. If the business enterprise is owned by an individual, it is a private enterprise. That owned by the government or state is known as public enterprise, and those owned by both the government and private is known as joint enterprise. Now, what does the concept of limited and unlimited liability means? When we talk about limited liability, it is the maximum amount of money or highest level of loss that an owner or a shareholder of a business is required by law to incur or contribute to the settlement of business debt in the event of business failure. That is, contributions are mostly limited to their capital investment. While in the case of unlimited liability, there is no limit or maximum level of contribution by a shareholder set by law for the settlement of business debt if the business fails. That is, losses may not be limited to their capital investment in the business, but extends to selling of private assets to meet business debt. Then, the concept of separate legal entity. When we talk about separate legal entity, it simply means if the law recognizes a business as a personality, that business is separate from its owner, and as such, the business has the legal standing to sue and be sued. The business has the personality to seek for loan, to issue shares, to borrow, and what have you. Let's look at the forms of business organization. The main forms of business organizations are the sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability company, that is the private and public companies, cooperative societies. Now, when we talk about sole proprietorship, it is a form of business that is owned by an individual. Here, it is the individual who provides the capital. He takes all the major decisions. He runs the business. He has unlimited liability. He undertakes the risk and enjoys the profit. The major advantage with the sole proprietorship is the feeling of being his own boss, and he does everything humanly possible to be effective and efficient, as the survival of the business depends on him. The major disadvantage of sole proprietorship, on the other hand, is limited access to capital, and if the business fails, he stands to lose everything, even personal assets in extreme cases. Another form of business organization is partnership. Partnership is a form of business that is formed by two or more persons, usually between but not limited to 2 and 20. Here, the partners do most things together, from the taking of the decision to the contribution of capital or skills to the bearing of the risk and enjoying of the profit that comes from the business activities. Partnership is classified into ordinary or general partners and sleeping or limited partners. The former take active part in running the business, while the latter do not take active part in running of the business. The major advantage with partnership is that capital can easily be raised and or obtained, and risk is shared among partners. On the other hand, the major disadvantage of partnership is that the ordinary partners bear more risk than the sleeping partners. Next is limited liability company, that is the private and public companies. The private and public companies, they carry out similar activities. That is, they both have a board that make their major decisions in the business. They are both seen as separate legal entities. They both raise capitals through the issue of shares. The major differences between the private and the public limited liability companies are that in the private, shares are hardly transferable, while shares are easily transferable in the public. Under the private limited liability company, accounts must not necessarily be publicized, but the public must publicize account usually every year. In the private limited liability company, ownership ranges from 2 to 50, while in the public limited liability company, ownership ranges from minimum of 7 and to no maximum number. Next is cooperative associations. This is the type of organization that is formed mostly by consumers or producers, usually to undertake a venture for the aim of pursuing the welfare of members or protecting their own interest. Here, there is usually no limit to the size of its membership. All members have unlimited liability and bear same risk. Profit are shared according to members' patronage. Cooperative associations are classified into three. We have the producers cooperative. These are producers who come together for the purpose of producing or selling their products. We have the consumers cooperative. These are consumers who buy goods in bulk from producers and sell to consumers in retail prices. Then we also have credit and thrift cooperative. This is a cooperative formed by some persons with the aim of either saving or ease of accessing loans. In summary, a business organization is an undertaking or project which usually involves capital investment and risk, so that there are chances of success as well as failure. If the business enterprise is owned by an individual, it is a private enterprise. That owned by the government or state is known as public enterprise, and those owned by both the government and private is known as joint enterprise. The forms of business organizations are sole proprietorship, otherwise known as one-man business, partnership, limited liability companies, that is the private and public companies, cooperative associations, and joint enterprise. Here is an assignment for you. Explain the concept of separate legal entity. Thanks for your time. See you in a subsequent session.